Hello guys, it's Randall with Bitraged. So I wanted to do a follow-up video on Joe's two videos, and we're not just trying to harp on the Bitcoin thing, but there are some facts that I would like to share with you. I'm noticing a lot of articles and YouTube videos coming up today that are basically just total nonsense, not based on facts. They're just some clown just spewing random stuff off the top of their curly heads. And honestly, I'm not really interested in some clown who doesn't trade the market, who doesn't understand the market, explaining something that they really don't understand. So like I mentioned before, there are a ton of articles, a ton of videos dropping today, especially this evening. I mean, they're popping up all over. And part of it is because, let's go to the 1 hour like he was at. And this part here is cropped up. But besides that, what most people were seeing was a lot of green. What it looked like a lot of bullishness. And they're looking at a 1 hour chart. I mean, they're looking at a 1 hour chart. I mean, even on a 4 hour chart. But I mean, seriously, like I said, you can tell when people really don't know, they don't trade. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with looking at a 1 hour chart. But for something like this, when you have to see the big picture. You have to see where we came from and where we are now. You can't see that on a 1 hour chart. And another thing that we have to understand here is, let's go back to the 1 hour chart here. Because this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of people looking at this and they're calling this the bottom. And they're saying if we break through to a certain point, which is in this, I think it's the 8,000 range is what I've been hearing. If you can break through the 8,000 range, then we're gold, which we're already seeing this dropping off even in the 1 hour here. But what these people don't understand, and like I said, it's because they don't trade. What they don't understand is when you have a drop from 20,000, or we could say even 15,000 or 17,000 in this range, when you have a drop that significant down to basically 6,000, you can't just go up and everything be hunky-dory. All right. You have to retest support, and I think this is what people miss. And let's look at the 4 hour chart here. Let's look at a couple support levels here. So we had, and let me just remind you, this support level back here is what we just retested. We just retested. So from November 12th, now we're just coming back to that point. Now we have to ask ourselves why. We never retested it here. We should have retested it here. We had a significant bull run. We dropped a little bit. We had a huge bull run, running right up to 17,000. And it's important to understand that you create resistance at these points, and that resistance is always retested. And you create support at these levels, and that support is always retested. And the sooner a support is retested, maybe not the sooner, but if it is retested soon, it becomes stronger. All right. If you go from November all the way to now to retest, you have to drop all the way back down there to retest it. You can't retest it from up here. So that's why, had we actually retested this point here, it would have been a stronger climb. And had we been retesting at each point, it would have been a stronger climb. But these type of bull runs are based on a lot of, I'll use a technical term, fluff. It's people that see a market going up and they want in on it. You know, they hear clowns like John McAfee saying Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million, and they're like, okay, man, alive. It just went from 6,000 to 20,000. I better buy in. And there's a lot of people who bought in here. There's a lot of people who bought in here. There's even a lot of people who bought in down here in the 15,000 range, and then were selling out all along the road down because they didn't understand the market. Okay, back to the points I was making on support. So you have to retest those support lines. And when you break through that support becomes resistance. All right, so the next time you come down, the next time you come back up, that support line becomes resistance. And you see that here. All right, so that was a support line. We went up, we broke through this support here, and we dropped down to here. And when we came back, that original support line became resistance, and we couldn't break through it. So support that is broken becomes resistance. It's an important point to understand in crypto. Well, it's an important point to understand in market, you know, whatever market you're dealing in. So when you have a plunge in the market like this, it's important to understand that the market always will retest that support. It may take months, all right? It may go from November to February, but it's going to retest that support. At some point, it's going to retest that support. If it doesn't here, it's going to do it over here. Now, I'm sure somebody will be able to find an exception to this rule somewhere, but I mean, this is a pretty solid rule. You can't have that big of a climb without retesting these support lines without it dropping. And that's what we have. This is what this is all about. So, are we over the correction? I do not believe so, because we need to retest this as support. We've dropped so far that we really have to establish support at this level. So we have to come back down. We have to retest it. And if we retest it and we're good, if we can hold the bears off, then we're more solid and we can see more of a bull run. And considering the news from the SEC, the news from the US government, kind of on how they're going to treat Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, I know that they were hard on ICOs and they're going to be pretty tough on ICOs. I thought they were fairly favorable for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and blockchains. I thought that it was fairly favorable, and I would say in bullish favor. Using that term, I would definitely say it was in favor of the bulls. So I do think that's going to play into the market over the next couple of days, and I think you're going to see bull runs from that. But it's important to understand, even if over the next 24, 36, 48 hours, even if we ride up to 9,000, it's going to have to come back down and test. And the farther we go up without testing means the farther we have to come back down at some point. So this point has to be retested. It's going to be retested at some point. And when it does, if we find support there, then we should see a slow climb. And as we climb up, we're going to find new support levels. And each of these previous support are going to be resistance levels. And you found that here. All right, that was support. It became resistance. We're headed back down a little bit here. It's just important that we understand that's how the market works. And to really see this Bitcoin be stable, it has to retest these points. So I hope that maybe you've learned a little bit from this. Maybe your eyes have been opened a little bit. Maybe, I hope. It's important that you look at the big picture when you're trading, especially something as large of a cost as Bitcoin. So I would not recommend buying into Bitcoin right now. Now, I could be totally wrong, and we could ride right up to 13,000, but you can't just have a V pattern from this drop. You have to at least have a W from a market structure. And honestly, until we see that, I haven't bought in yet from this drop. All right. Now, trading ups and downs is one thing. As far as buying in, no, I'm waiting. If we retest this support line, which should happen fairly soon, and we find support there, I'm going to buy in at 6,000. But if it breaks that support, then I'm going to wait for it to find new support and buy in at the lowest point. That's how I work. That's how I do things. I'm not perfect, but I spend a lot of time researching this stuff, and I'm going to make a very highly educated decision on where to buy in, and it's going to be very accurate as far as my concluding thoughts. We're going to expect to see some continued volatility over the next couple days. Expect to see some ups and downs. Expect to see support and resistance retested. Expect to see that. It's going to happen. Also understand that there's a lot more at play here than just the SEC saying, okay, we're not going to screw Bitcoin right now. There's a lot more volatility for Bitcoin. This is a transitional point for Bitcoin. It's also a monumental point, and the support levels that it draws at this point are going to propel it into the future. And I believe in Bitcoin. I honestly believe that we're going to see $30,000 to $40,000 by the end of the year. It's possible it could even outdo that. I think 30 to 40,000 is a fairly conservative estimate for Bitcoin. I do see it happening. But on the way up, we need to see it a healthy growth to Bitcoin, not these large spikes like this that have no support. They are not safe. All right. And when you see that, it's fine to trade them. If you bought in anywhere along this route, you made money if you sold out. But you have to know when to sell out. You have to know how to read charts. You see a big wick like that, you better be heading out. All right? You better be heading out. So it's important to really read charts, understand what's going on. There's tons of signs. There have been tons of signs throughout this whole ordeal. There have been signs back in November, back in December. Definitely in January, we had a ton of signals that it cannot hold this value. We're headed down. But you have a lot of traders in cryptocurrency right now that they don't understand charts. They're trading emotionally. All right, guys, I better wrap this up.